Well, I grew up as a lonely child outside of a bigger city in Norway. I was the kind of person who always went up very early in the morning, knocking on my friend's door, trying to get them to come out and play with me, maybe 5:30 in the morning, because I loved to greet the morning light. And when I was 9 years old, my mother gave me her old camera, because she was getting a new one. So, and most importantly, she gave me film with the camera. So I was allowed to photograph from a very young stage, and I always brought this camera with me. So I think that this kind of had an impact on how I see the world through the lens always. So I think that kind of thing, and I never really thought about it until much later, because it was such an integrated part of my life. I would just document everything, my pets, my friends, whenever we went on a trip. If I saw an interesting flower, I have tons of pictures of trees from when I was very young. So I think that this kind of influence had a big impact on where I am today, yeah. I integrate, you know, with the work that I do, I use my family all the time. So my sons from very young ages have been photographed. Sometimes they hate it. Now they think it's okay, because they will always bring friends and they will say, oh, you don't have to think about it, because my mother, she just wants you to stand in the fog behind the tree with your back to it, so it doesn't really matter. So I don't have the kind of family album that would be like a normal thing, but I have different things, and I use my family in the work that I do, and also in my visual diary that I make. This is how I use the Instagram today. It's like a visual diary instead of writing. Well, you know, since I got this camera when I was 9 years old, that was just an integrated part of my life, but I always painted. So I draw and I paint. Nowadays I haven't done it so much, but it's just a couple of months ago that I started picking up the painting again. I do watercolor, I do some oil paintings and things like that, and I have a great time with just making sketches. Sometimes when I photograph, I know about the location I'm going to go visit, and I can plan the image. So I will draw in where I want people to stand and how the composition is going to be in the image, and I will reconstruct that when we come to the location, and I will place the people exactly where I want them. Sometimes that works really well, and sometimes it was all in my head. It didn't really work when I photographed it, so I can't really use it. But then something else happens. So yes, I do use other forms of creativity with paintings and drawings, but also I do love music. I mean, I think music is an ultimate art form, and it can make you cry with just one note, for instance, and make you deliriously happy as well. So. That's such a big area, because for me music is very much a state of mind. I love classical music, to play it really loud, to set the mood, but then I can listen to hip hop, I can listen to Eminem. So it's such a variation of, and it's such a mood setting for me. I can bring myself up and I can bring myself down with the use of music. So for me, it's really difficult to say that I have this as a favorite and this as a favorite. I would say I have mood swings during the day, also what I prefer to listen to in the morning, during the day when I work, in the evenings, and sometimes when I go out into nature, I seek the whole stillness of everything with no sound at all. Mm-hmm. So it's for me it's very difficult to pick one particular piece that's a favorite. Yeah. Dostoevsky, of course, Crime and Punishment. I mean, this is, I really love that book so much, and when I was reading it, since it's being such a heavy book, I was totally annoyed most of the time, because I could feel his frustration, and I was so frustrated for him, come on, I could feel how he was thinking about if people knew about what the terrible things he'd done, if he was going to be found out. And then at the end of the book, it was such a relief. And I think it's that book in particular is one that stayed the longest with me, because it made me think so much afterwards. You know, normally when you read a book, you're in the book, and when it's finished, it's finished. And it was a good read. But that particular book, it just stayed with me and kept me thinking totally different things. So it was surprising. Yeah. I love traveling. And I think that is how also I've used the work or the photography that I do. I always bring my camera. Whenever I go, if it's a family holiday or if I go traveling on my own, just to here to Russia, for instance, if it's a workshop or if it's just for myself to get to know people, if I have planned to photograph, it's such an inspiration to come to new locations, if it's buildings or if it's nature. And I find it surprising that wherever I go, there is always something that is totally new, and I will bring it into my work. And even in the show that I'm showing at Ross Photo, I have images, they're from Russia, they are from Israel, they are from England, they are from Denmark. So it's very many places. And what I like about it is that you can't really tell. People will ask me and say, oh, this must be in Africa. And I say, no, it's not. It's just 10 minutes from my house. So, and I think that's really, really interesting, because it shows again that the viewer brings in their own story when you look at an image. So you have your own preferences and you have your own registration of the world from where you've been yourself, and this will resonate in some way. Oh, that's very difficult. It would be easy to say Russia, because I've been here now so many times. Since 2011 was the first time I visited. And it opened up so many things for me on a creative way, also with the people that I've met here. So I'm gonna, in a couple of days, I'm gonna go out to the countryside outside of St. Petersburg for the first time to explore and walk into the landscape, because I've been there, but then I've been driving and going just to a destination and then going back. And now I'm gonna spend a whole day in it. So I think I'm gonna say Russia now, mostly because also I've met so much of the Tarkovsky work that I feel that I have from within. So it's been a great period for me, and also I've been here most of the time during the winter, and I really, really love winter. It's very simple for me, because I was introduced to him by a very good friend and my mentor, Martin Kotwal from Norway. That was back in 2008, and sadly to say, I had never heard of him before. I had never seen any of his films or any of his images, and I just saw this one still image from one film, and it just hit me from within, and I thought, this is this is what I feel on the inside. I know this image. I don't know why I know this image. So this has just started a process, and then I went out and I photographed. I made something as a response to that, and then I looked into his work. I searched on the internet and I found his films, and Martin told me about him. And then I felt like a kindred spirit. I felt that when I found him, there was just something that I recognized very much. Which I find very interesting. I mean, I'm Norwegian, I'm a woman, he's Russian, a man, he was much older than me. So it's, I don't really understand it myself, but whenever I see an image, if it's a photograph that he made, or if it's a film, it just feels like home for me. So it's the best answer I can give, yeah. I have thought about it, and I have actually had several times the questions if I also do film, And I think that has got to do with the way that when I do the staged photography, the things that I plan when I put people in positions, because I work in two ways. I have the planned photography that I do. I go out and everything, I have my people with me and I have a vision. And the other way is to go out and just to greet whatever the universe provides for me. And things will happen and I will go along with that. So I have thought about it, but how I make my photography, I kind of feel like I'm already making a film. And this is also probably because I can spend hours on the same location, just walking with my camera like this and seeing what's happening, because you see it in a totally different way looking through the viewfinder instead of just looking at it. So for me, my photography is kind of a film, but just one-on-one image. But I have certainly thought about filmmaking, and it would be about the same as I do with photography. Yeah, it would be very similar. Again, I think both ways. I think both spontaneous and also very planned, because I like to have the planned pictures because it gives the feeling of going to follow a script. You know, you have a plan, we're following it, and then afterwards I can think, as I said earlier, that no, didn't really work the way I wanted it. And then I will just change everything, because we are already on a location. I have already my people there. So we will just mix it up and we will kind of invent a new film in my head. So it's this kind of, I like both ways very much to work like that, because sometimes when I just go out in my car very early in the morning or in the twilight zone in the afternoon, if I see something special, I will bring up my phone, I will say, I'm coming to pick you up, you need to come with me. I have these images now in my head, but I need 2 people. And I will rush back with my car, get the people, rush towards the location, and we will do the pictures. And I have several examples of how I made those. And even if I see just this interesting building, I will make myself go into it. I will take some sketch images, as I say, and then again I will find people, or very seldomly I will place myself in the image if I have a tripod or something, but that would always be like a last resource. I prefer to bring people in. But I have the last maybe 2 years really explored a lot about nature and with trees as sculptures, trees like I see a lonely tree and it's like a person standing there. So I see that I go deeper into the natural landscape as well, not just the landscape of the mind. So. Well, when it comes to models or the people that I photograph, I use already my family and my friends. I will ask anyone I meet if I see somebody interesting on the streets. I will just approach them, I will give them my card, I will ask for their phone number and if they would be interested in being part of the photography that I do. I have never experienced that people have said no. People are extremely friendly and they like to be part of things like this. So, and here in St. Petersburg in particular, I work with Tanya, who has provided many models for me. Of course, I have some of my favorites that I tend to come back to all the time, and it's a chance to meet people. It's a chance to get to know people, and I love to photograph them again and again and again, because we can go deeper and deeper. So I'm just not very shy in asking people to come with me and to do something. I can meet people on the beach if I do something there and I see, all I need now is some person to stand here. I will just turn around and I will see anyone, oh, you. And I will go over and I say, please, can you just come? Please, can you stand there? Can you take on my coat? And just do it. And this is how it happens. Yeah. Well, I started some years ago to explore more into the portraits, and now I really want to work with sisters. This is because not necessarily twins, but it's because I'm an only child myself, so I never had a sister. And I think it's interesting for me in particular to see how sisters integrate. I mean, some sisters are just the best of friends, can't live without each other. Others would certainly like a life without their sisters. My mother is an identical twin, and she has 6 sisters. So I think that this is an interesting project that I really want to dig deeper into and being a part of, because the Tarkovsky and the Poetica will always be part of me, and it will always be the kind of voice that I have. I'm just looking for new ways into doing that, and for that I think that the sister project is the one that I'm going further with now.